Hey guys, thanks for coming back. Um, Keeping on some of the vintage ideas as far as print medium, hard to find stuff. Like I mentioned before, I did have a collection of the original uh, trading cards when they came out, and they are a collectible item to me, and they're cool and something fun to talk about. So I figured I'd take a few minutes and just talk about these. Because at some point, I think trading cards were in most of our lives. If you're over 30, I guess, and especially those of us who came up with Star Wars, they were definitely part of our lives at that point. Because that, again, as I mentioned with some of the other books and magazines, this was the only way to revisit these films, or another way to revisit the films, because we didn't have home video at that point, and so we had to keep them alive in our memories somehow. And trading cards were a big part of that, at least for me and a lot of my friends. So uh, they were, they were definitely a staple thing to look for. And there was a lot of just word of mouth as far as what cards were where. You would hear from friends, "Hey, I found this card at this store, and maybe they've got some more decks that might have that kind of thing." So you would kind of jump around to these convenience stores and grocery stores and grab them when you can, and then you end up with definitely about, out of 100 cards, about, a good 30% of them are duplicates. And you go through a lot of bubble gum. That one stick of bubble gum, and if it was older than a month old, it would get dry and crack and break into pieces. Um, so they were definitely fun. I mean, I came up through all the movies. I mean, I was just really young when Star Wars came out. I was 7. Um, so the bonus cards weren't really. I mean, I'm sure I may have had some, but I never really had any that I kept in or that stayed around, and I missed out on the entire trading card run of the original Star Wars, and I still don't have any. I just it's just been off my radar. I don't know, but when Empire came out, I mean, I was aware of the Star Wars cards later, after Star Wars was out, hanging out with friends, and maybe their older brother had some of these cards, and you kind of were aware of them at that point, but then you couldn't get them anywhere. But then when Empire came out, the wave of cards came out for them, and at that point you were ready for it. You're definitely more aware of them, and you jumped on them, and that's kind of where I came in. And again, it's based upon your accessibility from who's buying them. If you're not buying them, how you getting to where you're going to get them. If you're not driving, so when you're a kid, you're dependent upon a lot of people to get you to where these things are and to pay for them. So a lot of the stuff you have, if it's vintage collectible stuff, if your parents are still around, thank them for buying these things for you when you were a kid. So that being said, I did get and collect and keep most of the cards that I had. I was not able to, for the Empire run, I was not able to collect the entire sets. I got out of the sets that were available there. I'll see in a minute here, but there was at least a red and a blue set for Empire, and I got a good bit of both of them. And in this folder here, I'll be showing you that stuff. And got them, kept them in relatively good shape. But when Return of the Jedi came out, a couple things changed. I mean, obviously, you're a little older at that point. I was 13, so a lot of things were happening as a 13-year-old, and so I was a lot more mobile, and had extra money of my own from just small, local jobs, even mowing lawns, or throwing newspapers. And just a lot more aware now of the cards, and so I was able to actually, out of the two sets that were made for Jedi, I was able to collect in the entire first set of the red backed cards. on my own, which all of them are here from my original collection, which is pretty cool. But there was a blue set that I never got around to. I think I remember seeing them, but I was burned out a bit, just kind of like I mentioned before with other action figure collecting. You go through such a long period of time of really kind of pumping it and trying to track things down, and you get exhausted, and you get kind of like you get what you first get, and you kind of say, hey, that's good, and I got them, and I'm moving on with other things, because at 13 other things were coming in. I was just getting into high school. I was playing music for a couple of years and starting up little bands with guys, and just that kind of thing. Video games were really starting to kind of really become a thing again. It was a lot of things are taking my attention away from the cards, especially after a few months after the movie, after Jedi had kind of gotten out of the theaters. There was still the collectors markets were still out there. The Toys R Us are out there. They were still trying to keep the momentum going after the movie had long been out of the theaters. Even into 1985, they released another set of Star Wars figures that weren't in the original sets, and they started adding all kinds of stuff just to keep the momentum going, keep as much of the franchise bringing in money as they could. But for me, I mean, I just can't say it any other way. Life gets past you, and you just move on with it, and you and you keep and you cherish what you have. But I wasn't in a position to really kind of keep hitting at it and trying to go out there and find everything that came out, because it was just too much going on. So anyway, I was left with what I was left with, and years go by, and what I have here in the foreground are these 3 books that came out, I don't know, 5 years ago now. They are complete compendiums of the entire run of all of these Star Wars trading cards from each film. Each book has, I'll get this up here so we can see it. I'm just putting this one because it's in the middle. And what's funny is the paper, the paper of the cover of the book, the cover paper itself is the same kind of paper that the trading cards were wrapped in. It's a nice little touch. And they're printed the same way. That waxy things are a little offset print. Kind of cool. So I'm going to just open up to some pages here. They have some forewords and some information by whoever was writing this, talking about the period of time, what was going on in the marketing and all this. Then they have what you see in here. You have the first card in the series, and the way that they did it is they show the back of the card first, then the front of the card. It was a little odd. They did that with all of these. But it's very cool in the sense that you can go through and see each card in order of the card number, the entire book. This was epic to come across this. I'd been dying for something like this for a long time. So it goes through and shows like the later versions of the cards, all the stickers, and additional cards, and then the second set, the blue set, and then all the way through, and then additional like oddball art cards that showed up in the backs of some of the sets, which I don't remember getting any of them. As these weird the art series, I don't know what they call them, but just oddball things and some cool out of print stuff. So I'm not really going to go through all of the books. Just wanted to have them up there, just to kind of add to what I'm talking about. That these are available. So I hope they're still in print. If you don't have these, if you're interested in the cards, I'm sure you can find these. These are well worth their, I don't know, they were like $20 or something. I don't know. I don't think they were telling you anymore in here. Got them on Amazon, and I was just buying stuff, so I don't remember. So but whatever. I mean, find them and get them. They're really, really cool to leaf through. Really cool history on all of the trading cards. And then, of course, all the pictures of them. And what we'll see in here is, I'll just talk a little bit more about that because it's easier to leaf through here. So I'm hoping you can see a little bit of this. I had to kick the view back on my iPad a little bit to get everything in frame. What I'll do is I'll just kind of lift him up this way. That works somewhat. I know something's going to knock over. I'm just going to sense it. Actually, you know what I'll do? Put this up here. Now that I don't have to worry about too much other stuff. See if this moves around any better. Okay, that works pretty good. I'll try and keep it as steady as possible. So, I found these. You can get these almost anywhere. These trading card clear sheets that have the slots in them, and I have them in order so that you can see them front to back. The order, I don't have, again, not complete sets, but in order of what they are. And again, like I said with those storybooks, you see the same thing in here where there's a lot of alternate shots and production shots that weren't in the film that are interesting to see through the cards. There's a picture of 3PO, and I think that was a K3PO, if I remember properly. But there was never anywhere in the film where they were kind of hanging out together. There's a picture of a 2-1B examining a dead Tauntaun. Obviously, something killed it, but we don't know what it was. You see that and you know that it wasn't in the film, but there it is on a card, and it makes you kind of wonder what that is. So here we are. There's more shots, still frames and things like that. And as I'm just leafing through them, they're just kind of bringing back some thoughts that I had. I like looking at things stylistically and the choices they made as far as design and things like that. And there was it always hit me for some reason. This particular, I'm not sure if the color is coming through properly because of the lighting in here. This 3PO card here, the background color is kind of this magenta-ish color, and I don't know what it is, but back then, that color when I was a kid, that color just struck me as indicative of just, some colors are representative or indicative of certain time periods. Like there was a thought that, like the 70s were always very yellowish and orangish and that kind of thing. And the 80s were very brighter pastels and things like that. So, but this was an early 80s thing. And it just for some reason, I just always associated that color to 1980. Whenever I think of 1980 and Empire Strikes Back, I just thought of that color, and I don't know what that is. Just wanted to bring that up. I know there's a term for color association to things, and as a musician, I deal with that a lot because when you hear sounds, some of them come across in color too. You see a color when you hear a sound, and I get that a lot. And my students, when I used to teach, I don't teach anymore, but they would offer the same thing where they would say, hey, whenever I'm playing this or I hear this particular noise or sound, I always think of this color, and that's good that you're aware of that because that's, your association to things. But anyway, I'm getting off track. So that's what the going through the cards always does for me, is it triggers thoughts, memories of those times, and it's good occasionally to come back and just pet that pet a little bit and make it happy, and then you can close it and move on for a while. So now what was cool though about this set of the cards, I mean, I know they're upright, but I'm just dealing with it. This had been, up to this point, something we had never really had the opportunity to have much of, and the kids were up close, as close as we could. Fairly good shots, static shots of key vehicles in the film. Now, again, I don't have everything, and I don't know if there were. I'd have to go look in the book. I guess that's what it's for. I don't know if they had like the Falcon or X-wings or anything like that, but this was what I had. But having a snowspeeder and a pod car and Slave One and the TIE fighters, and just being able to kind of look at them and just appreciate their detail and imagery and what was on them. You never really got to see these things like that because they're flying all around the screens every time you're seeing them on the movie, so you never really get a chance to lock in on them and just look at them. So it was cool that they did that. But the blue set, they started kind of, not repeating shots, but there's a lot of shots like they're going over the beginning of the movie and going through the order again because the new shots come out and what have you. So there's a little bit of redundancy in the cards, and I think that might be part of what tires you out about it. Like you have the similar shots in the previous set, and I don't know. But another interesting thing about these cards, and I'm sure it was partially just production, but I'm not sure how much of a decision it was made. These shots of Leia here, she's obviously not wearing pink in the movies. It's an off-white. It might even be like a cream white, but they've obviously pumped the fuchsia or the salmon color or whatever, the pink on the outfit. And even back then, I don't remember her being pink in the movie, but it was just kind of one of those things that you just keep in your head that hey, I remember seeing her in a pink outfit. Well, no, it wasn't. It was just your memory was kind of off from that. So just more shots of the film as we go through. Some cool shots. I always like that shot of 3PO and R2. That's a nice shot. Then is it ripped? Oh, I'll have to fix that later. Then they included some more artwork shots. They have some cool Ralph McQuarrie shots. And then there's some duplicates that I just put in at the end, some stickers and so forth. And then down here, these three cards are interesting too. These were promo cards from Burger King. I don't know if I can get him out of here. See if it shows anything on the back of it. Yeah. Little Burger King and Coca-Cola logo. Pretty much they were. It was you got to collect all the trading cards. It just there was nothing really to it, just to get all of them. And you got a string of these. They were perforated. Here you can tear them apart, so you have individual cards. So every time you bought like a large sandwich or a meal or whatever, they gave you one of these strings of cards, and it was cool because there were some of these shots that were in the other cards, but it's just a cool exclusive, right? And you think it's something special, and it is because I kept them. But I like looking back on it and just seeing the date that it was expiring, like January 31st, 1981. It's just funny. So yeah, that was the Empire set. And then just briefly going through here, this is my Jedi set, the first, the red set. So, in order, everything complete. Down here, like the storybook has, is which I had found out after reading into it. It was not a leftover movie still. It was it was a promo shot they set up on purpose as they were filming the movie to put out for promo and posters and whatever. So a shot created during filming where they were filming other things, but it wasn't made for the movie. So I'm going to try and find maybe a big picture of that somewhere, maybe a high-res poster of that, maybe put that up in the blank space on my wall up there. That would probably be pretty cool there, along with the Death Star clock I'm eventually going to put up there. So yeah, again, we're just going through the general concept, just choice selections of cards and characters, and funny little anecdotes about them sometimes. And one thing that I had always, grown up as an adult and kind of start getting to know about things, some of the names of the characters were interesting. As you get older and you start hearing what they were calling some of the characters, like in Jedi especially. I mean, I wasn't old enough to know at the time that 3 of the skiff guards, Jabba's skiff guards, were named after the greeting the robot from The Day the Earth Stood Still said, coming out of the spaceship, the Klaatu Barada Nikto. So it was interesting to see that, and then you later in your years you kind of come across that, and it clicks together, and you say, "Oh my God, that's where I've heard that before." Just fun little things, and then finding out this little guy, Salacious Crumb, not knowing the combination of those words didn't really make sense. At the time, I wasn't really aware of what the word salacious meant. But Crumb, I could only imagine it's alluding to him being small. But the salacious is somebody who's got like a deviant sexual mind, and mostly I think, and then with his name, like he's a small sexual deviant. And I'm like, that's nice, putting that as his name in a movie that kids were watching, but nobody kind of got it. I never knew what that meant until years later, and I just kind of got a little chuckle over it. Other names have come up over the years in some of the other films, but that one was in particular kind of funny because it was, I think, a little just you see what they can get away with. So. Yeah, going through, and again, living out the films through the cards. Down here again, the alternate shot of Luke jumping up and grabbing the grate at the top of the Rancor pit, which the storybook also had. And so it was put in twice. I mean, they were using that shot in these medium, in the cards and the books. Why that never made it in the film, I don't know. Would have been a cool scene. Just going through a little more of this, a little more alternate shot of Leia being pulled in by Jabba, and so forth. So I'm just kind of pull through some of these. So one of the other words too is Admiral Akbar. His name never really made any sense to me until later years when I got more familiar with other nationalities and certain names and certain words. So, they were definitely picking from known sources for some of their names. Meaning behind that, I don't know, because it is what it is. But yeah, they just I don't know if they're picking names at random or if they've got a reason behind them. But yeah, so this is the set, and I'm just gonna finish that up there, and let me pull it back. Oops. So put him up there. So I'll just kind of finish it up with just these guys. So yeah, that's my Return of the Jedi, or my bubblegum card collection overview. So if anybody else has cards that they or you're curious about finding out if they're not complete sets, or if they just have an affinity for the cards, these books would definitely be a good resource and a cool thing to leaf through and talk about. So yeah, I've droned on enough about the collector's cards, just giving me something to do for a little bit. And if you have any other comments or suggestions or questions or whatever, feel free to leave the messages in the space below, and always like and subscribe. Always keep it civil, and talk to you later. Bye.